Mismong si Pangulong Marcos nagulat nang biglang gulatin ni BP ang mga senador handang isuko ni Duterte ang kanyang pinaglalaban. Base sa balitang kumakalat, hindi umano tinanggap ng Vice President ang confidential fund matapos ideklara maraming kampi sa loob kinakalaban niyang mga terorista. Ayon sa Vice President, kalaban ng gobyerno lahat ng kontra sa pondo ng Vice President dahil sa takot nilang maubos ni Duterte ang NPA recruiter sa mga eskwelahan kaya pinagkakaisaan ng Vice President.
At tandaan ninyo, kung sino man ang kumukontra sa confidential funds ay kumukontra sa kapayapaan. Kung sino ang kumukontra sa kapayapaan ay kalaban ng bayan.
This year ay lalong tumindi yan nung tinanggal yung daan-daang milyon na confidential at saka intelligence fund ni Vice President Sara Duterte. At nitong past 2 weeks, nung sinabi ng DOJ na i-review nila yung pagpasok ng ICC sa ating bansa kung sakaling maglabas sila ng international warrant.
Pero ayon kay Senator Bato, tinawag na inutil lahat ng kontra sa gobyerno dahil sinasayang nilang Vice Pangulo na desididong ubusin ng kalaban ng gobyerno.
Hindi naman dapat natin isiro. Kung isiro na naman natin yan, ginawa niyong inutil. O sino makikinabang kung magiging inutil itong mga Office of the Vice President, Office of the President, magiging inutil? Sino makikinabang? Hindi, yung enemies of the state. Sana huwag masiro yung confidential fund ng DepEd para may magamit sila pambili ng impormasyon. Ngayon lang tayo nagkakaroon ng DepEd na kagaya ni Vice President Inday Sara na gusto talagang tapusin yung insurhensya ng ating bansa. Kahit patapos na, sinimulan nito ng kanyang ama.
Pero ayon sa atin ng presidente, hinding-hindi niya iiwan sa ere ang Vice Presidente dahil sa panahong lahat ng tao gusto silang pagtraidoran, nasa tabi nila ang Duterte.
Hindi lang dahil kaibigan ko si PRRD. Kaibigan ko talaga siya. Higit lalo si Inday Sara. Mga kaibigan ko sa pagpapaunlad ng bayan, pagpapanatili ng kapayapaan at katahimikan at pakikipaglaban kontra sa puwersa ng kasamang naglalaganap na katiwalian, gutom at katraidoran. Ang isang anak na humarap sa napakaraming pananaksak sa likod ay hindi kailanman tatahimik sa mga nagtataksil at pambabastos sa taong gumalang sa aking ama. Noong pahintulutan niyang mahimlay ito sa libingan ng mga bayani.
Paglilinaw pa ni Duterte, totoong may pinagdaraanan ng Vice President dahil lumalabas ang totoong kakampi ng kanilang pamilya, totoong naniniwala sa kanila, kaya kampanting hindi maaalis ang Vice President.
Wala akong comment sa pag-remove, but I have a comment as their friend. It is true that we are the political family, our political side of our family is going through a rough patch right now. Nagpasalamat ko kay Senator Imee Marcos sa iyang padayon na pagsuporta sa politika sa amo ang pamilya.
Nakikita natin na talagang may tendency magkawatak-watak o magiging divisive itong issue na ito at dahil dito ang naniniwala ang ating Vice Presidente na siya ay nanumpa na panatiliing mapayapa at matatag ang bansang Pilipinas. Kaya hindi na po niya i-pursue ang proposal for confidential.
Ayaw na ni VP. So, nakausap namin siya, ayaw niyang ibalik din yung confi funds niya. So, it's moot and academic.
If we can ask the Office of the Vice President herself is here, Mr. President. Is she making an appeal for the restoration of the 500 million confidential fund to her budget?
Your Honor, actually, we're in receipt of a statement from the Vice President we discussed earlier. And according to her, the OVP can only propose a budget to support the safe implementation of its PAPs or programs, activities and programs to alleviate poverty and promote the general welfare of each and every Filipino family. Nonetheless, they will no longer pursue the CIF or CF. And the reason why is because it is seen to be divisive, and as the Vice President, she swore an oath to keep the country peaceful and strong.
So just as I commended the Office of the Ombudsman, the Department of Migrant Workers, and the other agencies which willingly gave up their CIF or the CF or did not even ask for these funds. Given this latest manifestation by the Vice President, I commend her, Mr. President, for now categorically stating to this House that it's not a deferral to our wisdom. She does not want it anymore, Mr. President. So if that is how I understand the statement, I commend the Vice President.
Siguro, Mr. President, good sponsor, yung susunod na punto ko, pwede po bang mag-provide ang good share ng mga kahit general details kung paano yung 125 million na iyon ay ginastos, no? Considering yung said amount ay in-expend sa loob ng 11 araw. Malay natin, may election dito, best practices ng OVP na yung ibang mga ahensya gamit ito pwedeng pagandahin yung kanilang absorptive capacity considering na yung underspending gaya ng sinimula nating pag-usapan kahapon, major problem pa rin, no? Tulad sa ating diskusyon sa interpellation kahapon.
At ito po yung kaakibat po nung pag-implement nung yung safe implementation of the programs, activities, and projects of the Office of the Vice President to alleviate poverty and promote the general welfare. At nakita natin nung sa komite, Your Honor, napakarami pong program ang OVP from libreng sakay, yung pagbubukas po ng maraming satellite office, yung pagbibigay po ng tulong sa libing, sa paggamot, sa napakarami po. There's so many services that were provided by the OVP, Ron.
So ibig sabihin, Mr. President, good sponsor, yung 125 million ginastos sa 11 araw o on average mga 11.3 million a day ay ginamit lahat yan para lang ligtas na maimplementa ang mga libreng sakay o paghahanda para magbukas ng satellite offices o magpalibing, magpagamot na itong lahat yung pagsisiguro ng kaligtasan nito, yan ay umabot sa on average 11.3 million pesos a day, Mr. President?
Yung 11 days, yun po yung period of disbursement ng pera ho. But if you include the period for obligation, it was actually 19 days. And if we look at the services performed or the use of the funds, goes beyond actually the 11 or whether there's 11 days or 19 days. 19 days pertaining to the period from when the Sara was issued, which allows the agency to obligate the funds to the day it's finally paid for, where the services or any contracts are paid for, and thus the cash is considered dispersed. Does not mean that all the services or all the information, for instance, will be given on those days. Meaning the information could have been given subsequent to the contracting and dispersing of the money, Your Honor. So tapos yung confidential fund is used to ensure the safe entry for implementation of the programs and of course of the Vice President and her staff to various points of the archipelago. For instance, Your Honor, sa Surigao, sa BARM, in other provinces, meron ho talagang mga insurgency dyan. So kailangan siguraduhin na maganda yung pagpasok ng mga programa at saka ng party ni VP, and to guarantee that the program implementation is also always data-driven. So thus, the OVP was able to enter several geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas. For instance, in San Remigio, where they distributed pagbabago bags, school supplies, and dental kits to grade 1 and grade 4 school children in 33 barangays. And the CF is also used for purposes of continuous monitoring and validation of claims, especially for those made in or lodged in the satellite offices. So sa Bulacan po, for instance, the Office of the Vice President validated complaints that there were persons selling OVP assistance and forms. So meron hong mga ganong instances na talagang kinakailangan ho.
Sige po, Mr. President, good sponsor. Kahit sabihin natin for the sake of argument, so ginastos yung 125 million sa 19 days, still 6.5 million pesos a day iyon. So kahit itanong po natin yung ibang pinagkagastosan nila, information, different provinces or regions, lalo na yung mga apektado pa rin ng insurgency, sigurado naman hindi lang yung OVP security ang nag-secure ng OVP, whether the head of office or the personnel or the implementers ng mga programa, pero yung AFP at PNP on the ground. Well and good, data-driven, dapat yung mga programa. In GIDA areas, ito po ay termino din ng Department of Health. So, malamang sa hindi or posible nakikipag-ugnayan ng OVP dun sa mga programa, activities at proyektong iyon sa DOH. Hindi kaya yung mga bags, school supplies at dental kits ay tumatawid na sa budget naman ng DepEd na concurrently hinihead ng Vice President. So, claims, various provinces, validation of complaints. Again, still, even with this listing, palagay ko lamang po, Mr. President, good sponsor, reasonable pa rin itanong kung bakit posibleng umabot sa 11.3 million pesos a day ang gastos. And in any case po, just for the sake of thinking aloud, hindi po ba pwedeng i-convert yung mga worthwhile programs sa mga ito into line item sa budget, Mr. President?
Your Honor, actually the funds were requested as early as August 2022, but the SARO, or the authority to obligate and disburse the money, was only given in December. So talagang, kumbaga, obligado rin silang gastusin yung pera, Your Honor. Kasi kung hindi, di ba, we have a modified cash-based budgeting. Pag you use it or you lose it. So, pag hindi mo ginastos yung pera, maaaring mawala sa ahensya mo yun.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Good sponsor. Kung ano man, kung yung SARO na-release sa Disyembre, still, kaya yung interest at yung curiosity ng publiko, bakit at paano nakagastos ng ganyang kalaki sa napakaikling panahon lamang. And good sponsor, were any of the programs that the good sponsor mentioned funded with confidential funds?
Sorry, could you say that? Or any
of the programs that you mentioned, good sponsor, funded with confidential funds?
No, Your Honor. They strictly adhere to the joint budget circular issued by the DBM and the COA, which lists the permissible expenses for CIF, Your Honor, from confidential and intelligence funds, namely yung purchase of information, yung rental of safe houses, and of course they were conscious of the or items which are not allowed to be spent under the said circular, Your Honor.
Ngayon, ikaw, bilang Pilipino, ano ang masasabi mo at reaksyon sa balitang ito? Mag-iwan ka ng komento sa ibaba at atin pong babasahin isa-isa.